Hey, BJ O'Neill here with Business Coach Mastery with a free training all about the Universal Coaching Framework, specifically building your Universal Coaching Framework. And what we're simply saying is, how do we become the hunted? Isn't that an interesting thought? And while there's a lot to that, there's three specific things I want to share with you that I believe that when you master them, you increase this opportunity for people wanting to do business with you as a business coach. They see you as an advisor. They see you as a problem solver. They see you as someone that's like, they get me. Okay? And while obviously this takes time, as anything, to build. So if you're aspiring to get into the business coaching game, maybe you are already coaching at some level, but you're still kind of moving things around a little bit, trying to figure out your tone, your words, whatever. And you have to have a consistent framework, in my opinion, for yourself. And everybody's different. And the biggest thing about a framework is it has to be yours. I can't have yours, and guess what? You can't have mine, because it won't be real, and people will sense that. And that's what happens a lot, really, in general sales, especially though when, as a coach, as a believer, as a Christian, if you're coming across non-authentic, not believable, whatever, people see right through that. And it's not that you're intending to do that, but when you're trying to emulate somebody else, and we all kind of, we're borrowing from each other to hey, I like that sound, I like that tone, or whatever. But by and large, you have to be you. You have to be unique. You're your own self. God created you in His image to be who you are. But we want to frame that out to be specific, to be consistent, so that every time you open your mouth to talk to someone, it's the same thing. And people are, once they hear from you multiple times, you're like, they get it. They feel like there's some reciprocity of just wanting to be in your presence and build a relationship with you. So here's three things you want to consider. All right. The first is your coaching philosophy. And while you can make a lot of iterations of that, here are at least a few things you want to consider with your philosophy that I will encourage you with. Your philosophy is kind of like your DNA. Like, I am me. I do things because it's just who I am. I've learned, I've read, I've studied, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I've taken what I've learned, I've taken what I implement, taken what I know has worked, and made it for me. And you have to do something with your philosophy, is that, does it pass the gas station test? You're like, what does that mean? In other words, if you really embody your philosophy to the point where it's just oozing out of you, can't help it, just jumps out, just who you are, how you operate, what you're all about, all that kind of stuff. If you bumped into a stranger at the gas station, right, and they asked the proverbial question that some people don't like, what do you do? Meaning, that's the question, like, hey, so what do you do? If you can't respond in a way that's natural, that flows right off the tongue, almost like you are prepared for someone to ask that question. If you can't deliver that, if you fumble around your words, if you're not really sure, you hesitate, you're awkward, then you don't have your philosophy down pat, okay? So here's a few things that I would encourage you, especially as a Christian business coach, that in your philosophy, you definitely want to include these items. Number one is value. Probably don't need to explain to you why value is so important. But I want you to consider this. We talk all the time about being in the top 3% of our field. What that means is we're willing to do what we're going to do what 97% of coaches out there, they're just not going to do, for a lot of different reasons. Doesn't matter why. But this helps our prominence just raises automatically because of our consistency, our willingness to bring value. Value says, I care about you. Value says, I'm interested in what you have. Value says, I'm going to bring every conversation. You pray about every conversation. God, show me what I can pour into this person. I don't even know them. How can I bring value to them today? Second thing is that your desire in building your coaching business is all about building authentic relationships with individuals that you truly begin to care about them, right? They're likely married. They probably have kids. They go on vacations. They have other interests. I'm a Jeep guy, and I had this morning one of our brand new coaches. I didn't know this about them yet. He said, "Hey, I'm a Jeep guy too." Like that's what bringing value and building authenticity is all about, beyond just the dollars and cents. This is where a lot of people miss it because they're so overly focused on just growing the business that they forget that there's a human being who wants to feel included and feel loved. This is what relationship building is all about. So you're just finding ways to authentically care. If you're doing it in a way that you're just checking the box, ask about this, do that. Like back in the day, you probably have been around this. There's a lot of sales theology and training was all about, when you go into the business owner's office, look around the room and find out what they're, and ask questions. It's not a wrong thing to do, but a lot of people see that as just you're plagiarizing them just because, right? That's not what we're talking about. We genuinely want to care about them. And then the third thing is you want to have an appetite for solving problems. I think some coaches, they get nervous about this. They're like, well, what if I can't solve that problem? See, that alone is going to impact negatively your ability to be successful. You have to believe that you can solve any problem, because maybe you don't know what the solution is. But if we're talking about being resourceful, though, look, we're not going to know every problem, but I can go figure it out. I can go find somebody who's smarter than me, who understands this, whatever the this is thing. Like the whole 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. It's kind of a real thing, I think. But the bigger point is that you probably know a lot more people in your network that can point you to another person. So when you have an appetite for solving problems, we're not talking about, hey, I'm so amazing that I know everything. No, we're communicating to them that, hey, listen, we're going to be in this thing together. Like what you're going through in life and what you're dealing with your business, we can figure this thing out together. I want to help you with your biggest challenges. That's what they need to feel. You're not necessarily just saying those words. That's what they need to feel, and you communicate that with value, authenticity, and then you're genuinely, I'm going to figure that out one day. You're genuinely interested. That's so funny, because that button is turned off about the whole balloon thing. I've also, shiny object syndrome, it's turned off. True story. I'm looking at it. It's turned off. Anyway, you're genuinely interested, and so you ask really solid questions where you care. That's how you solve problems. You find out what their true needs really are. So you harness your coaching philosophy. The second thing is, out of the 3 things I'm going to share with you today, is you do have to have an elevator pitch. And I know that sounds so corny. I understand that sounds so, but hear me out. The bigger thing is what elevator pitch means is you need a message that just penetrates someone so much that I need to talk to you. That's what Becoming the Hunted is all about. I get the pleasure every single day to being on the phone, actually a Zoom call, with a lot of Christian men who are interested in starting their business coaching business. I don't know these gentlemen. They have reached out to me because they saw a message in a paid advertisement somewhere on social media. Why did they raise their hand and say, I want to talk to you? Because something that I've said resonated with them. That's what an elevator pitch is. It really is. And so in our coaching system, our Done For You system that we give our coaches, we have a predefined elevator pitch that you take and you massage and make it on your own. This is where the mistake is made, where too many still don't do that. And you got to make it your own. I'll give an example. Our pitch is, we can sit down and show any business owner how to find $100,000 or more in 45 minutes without you spending an additional dime on marketing or advertising, guaranteed. Like that's the kind of the main pitch. It goes a little bit further, but for today's purpose, that's the main pitch. Well, you can't just rip and read. You want to bring that back into your value, building solid relationships, and having an appetite to solve problems. This is how you could do that. Gas station test. Remember, hey, what do you do? Well, as a business strategist, I'm super passionate about helping businesses gain traction in finding hidden financial opportunities and breakthroughs in solving some of their biggest challenges that they're going through. One of the ways that I do that is I can sit down with you and then you kind of go into the elevator pitch. You see how I prop that up? A lot more natural, and certainly you clearly want to make that your own. But the bigger thing is when you're beginning the journey of building a relationship, and it doesn't even have to be directly with a business owner. You know, people misunderstand the word building a strong sphere of influence in a network is everybody. It's your neighbors. I got a chance a couple of days ago we had our small group at our church. Sat down, we kind of get together every week or every month for a meal. And it's just a social meal. And had a couple of guys come up to me and say, so I see a lot of what you do on social media. To say, what do you do? What exactly do you do again? That kind of thing. That's when you're getting the power of building your network, is letting others who are, in different levels of your sphere of influence. So it's not just about leaning in and finding the prospect. It's communicating to everyone you know in your sphere of influence what you do. Because you'll be shocked at how much organic relationships can be built or through your sphere of people who just understand what you do because you have communicated it correctly. So when I had that question this past week, so tell me again exactly what I see on social media, exactly what you do. So the biggest thing that I do is I give seasoned Christian men a done-for-you, a six-figure business coaching business so they can live life on their terms. They're like, wow, that is really cool. And then we just kind of went into a conversation. That individual, who I know fairly okay, but they didn't know all the details of what I do professionally. They do now. And now there's someone that, it's this person over time. It goes well beyond, and your sphere just gets so big. This is where a lot of people, I do believe, miss it in their coaching framework. They've played too small and only just to prospects. Got to have prospects, sure, but you're going to get a lot more of them when you develop your larger sphere. The last thing and the third thing is having a strategic plan for finding those relationships that turn into prospects, that turn into paid opportunities. There are essentially about 8 different strategies that you can use holistically. It is things like referrals from your sphere of influence. It's things like the traditional networking models. There's even the non-traditional networking models through Facebook groups and LinkedIn. There is doing workshops. So there's about 8 of them. You need to decide, where am I going to at least focus on 2 of those and master them? When you dabble in the prospecting phase, the lead gen phase, if you dabble here and there, you're going to get dabble-like results. Hear me clear. If you dabble here and there, you're going to get dabble-like results. And where you start in one day is not where you end up. So you have to be consistent. You have to give it enough time, whichever one you choose. And I'll do a different video just on a strategic plan for building relationships. And remember, you can call it lead generation all you want to. And yes, by nature, that's what it is. But I believe as a part of your framework, remember, we're building our DNA, our philosophy. When you build that lead gen plan and you really do look at that as like, what is my strategic plan for building solid relationships, where some of them turn into paid opportunities. You're going to own it better. You're going to feel better. It's not because we're not just looking at this just from a sales perspective. Yes, you have to have KPIs. Yes, you have to have enough people to talk to. Of course. Yes, you have to understand what to charge, and so on and so on. But when you're strategically building your philosophy and you make it about the human being, the person, the relationship, I'm telling you, you're going to own it in a different way than you're probably owning it today, or you're thinking about owning it if you're looking at becoming a coach, or maybe you just started. So I hope that helps you to just process creating your universal coaching framework for yourself. This is how we become the hunted. Essentially what we're saying is, this is how we get to a place to where people say, I'd be crazy not to do business with you. Hope that helps. Take care.